just give you a chance to sort of tell some of your stories that you can remember. Maybe it'd be fun for you to think back to one of your earliest recollections of coming up here to Mutah. Or your Lockwood, you know, you can even go beyond
I
that.
really don't remember the first time because I was a year old. Health-wise, I wasn't doing very well. I'm about to cry. It's ridiculous. Anyway, my mother knew that if she got me to the Lockwood, I would thrive. And since I'm almost 88, I thrived.
She did.
But anyway, my first memory of coming to Mutah, my mother and I would take the train and we would go to Lancaster. And when we got to Lancaster, we'd stay overnight in an old hotel. And when we stayed overnight in the hotel, then the next morning we would take an open touring car across Antelope Valley to Lebec, where the people would meet us with the wagon. My first remembers really were those wagon roads up right through Fraser Park and on in with the wagon. It would take all day to go from the Lockwood down to the Lebec to pick us up and then to come back again. I also wonder how they got information through then to meet us.
Yeah, did they send letters?
I have no idea. No telephones, you know.
And then by the time you got home, but back to the Lockwood, then it was probably late at night. Or
yes, it would be late in the
day.
afternoon. If I don't really remember that.
So how old do you think you were when you remember this time?
I don't really know. Probably 5, 6 years old. I don't know how old people start remembering things. I don't remember very, very early.
Mm-hmm. Well, then how old were you when you started coming up here in the Mutah Flats then?
You see, there was no road in here, no car road in here until, well, they put a road to the top of the grade when Stan was a baby.
So that would have been 1929, 30.
I would say 32, maybe 30, 31. I don't really remember. He was pretty young. We used to drive clear up to the top of the grade and look down in the Great Valley. And that's all. We could turn around and go back to the Lockwood. And I don't remember the first time we started coming up here. I don't remember.
How come you didn't? Was it too hard or too far? Or?
There was no road.
No roads, yeah, so you couldn't get in.
There was no road. There early on there had been a wagon road. But then when they used this Mutah area, they used it from the Lockwood. You see, it's just 10 miles from the Lockwood over here by the creek.
Right.
There's 25 miles around.
On the other way.
Coming the other way.
The way we come now.
And so they, any cattle stuff, any cattle raising or farming or anything they did over here, early on they came down through the Lockwood to do it.
Now, when you were a kid playing down in Lockwood, what were some of the things that you guys used to do?
Oh, playing in the creek mostly. Spent a lot of time playing in the creek.
When did you do horseback riding? Were you a little bit older then?
Yeah. I was a young teenager, I think. I used to ride with my cousin Kay. You know how it is with horses. Everybody has their own horse, and there's rarely any horses left over. But they always kind of managed to have a horse for me in the summertime.
Yeah, when you're up there. So you would come every summer with your mother?
Every summer we came. My mother felt like she helped with the cattle work. Because in those days, right at first, there was a Phalis family that lived up here, and they lived in the original log cabin. But then later on, I remember there was white families, and they lived right in the house with us. And of course, there was a lot of work to be done, and nothing to do with it. You have to remember that no refrigeration, no running water, no bathroom, and there was a lot of work to be done in the cooking and the washing clothes. And
well, you must have remembered that at some point when as you started to get older, they had to do part of that too.
Yeah,
right?
We had to help at that particular time. We had to. Kay and I had to run the washing machine. The washing machines in those days were manual with a
Back and forth
Yeah,
agitator.
an agitator that you worked back and forth, and it was our job to run that agitator. And so we didn't hate it. And we were lazy too.
Did you look forward to coming up like
Oh yeah.
spring when you knew it was getting close?
Kay Nedden was just 9 months older than I was, and her mother, Aunt Grace, always felt like we were good company for each other. And okay, I think my mother thought that teaching school, summer up here rejuvenated her for the following year. She probably did, even though the work was hard. And that's about all I can think of.
Now, then what time period was it when you really started coming up here, when they finished the road and you could come up here in the Luth house?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Because I think they redid the old house back in the 40s. So they must have been able to get up there. I think somebody told me one time they finished that the last year of the war.
Something like that, I know. But I'm not sure that I was coming in here at that point. I don't know how they got in. They must have come in by car.
Mm-hmm.
But Ray would know more about that. Then I don't really remember. I'm trying to date it up with something, but I can't remember.
Well, and then after you built the house here, which was in
65.
Okay.
Eventually, but love, we've been here practically every weekend during the season from May to October. For all those years.
Yeah. And that's really when you started bringing friends up and...
No, we used to have friends at the old house at the Lockwood.
Oh, did you?
Oh, you would bet. Yes.
And who would come up? Like what?
Even the Fosters came up one time to the old house. Now let's see, that would have been when Bill Foster or Cherry, they were just very young teenagers. The first time we brought them up.
Do you know anything about Old Man Mutah?
No, that was too early. Only that he was a Frenchman. Some people think that the name Mutah should be spelled M-U-T-A-H, which should be more Indian.
Mm-hmm.
But it's M-U-T-A-U, as it would be if it was French.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Now, which families originally lived in here?
Oh, I don't know anybody except the Lewises. My folks used to talk about the Lewises all the time. They lived over where the schoolhouse was. And when Aunt Grace came up here, straight out of Teacher's College in Los Angeles, she lived with the Lewises.
Now, this would have been...
And they were poor people.
And they lived here year-round?
Yeah. My folks said they would go off and leave all. They had a big family. My aunt said they'd go off and leave those kids here with almost nothing to eat.
You mean like in the winter or just any time when they left?
Well, it would have to be in the summer, I think. You understand, to go out of here, then you went down through Fillmore.
Mm-hmm.
There was no road. The only access in here was through Fillmore. So, by horseback. And you could get the train at Fillmore.
So how did they provide for themselves living up here with this family?
I don't know. Except for wild game.
There's not much farming, really.
No, the growing season is so short that you can't hardly grow anything up here. And you can have summer frosts that kill stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was what always killed the Lockwood. They'd have frost in the summer and kill everything that they had managed to get started growing.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's go back to when your grandmother and grandfather moved out of the Lockwood? How they had spent their life, virtually all of it, up there.
Yeah, they had. I don't believe they had dealt. I'm trying to think whether they had bought the first ranch they bought outside of the Lockwood, to where they were taking the cattle in the winter. They had a bad snowstorm up in here. I don't know whether they had that at the Mutah or just over at the Lockwood or just over here, but they lost a lot of cattle. The wind blew fiercely, and the cattle moved back into the brush for protection, and they couldn't reach them to feed them, so they died. And so then they bought the ranch down below, the Santiago, and they moved the cattle out. And I don't know when. See, Aunt Grace and Uncle Bert had moved up in here. He was running the ranch mostly. Okay, I don't know a whole lot about that. But, and my grandfather used to take off and come over here by himself. And he was old.
Into Mutah Flat?
Yeah, he would ride off by himself and go wherever he pleased. And then the family would worry about him so badly.
Now, how old was he, do you think, about? Yeah.
I think she died in 1915 at about 85 or something like that. I'm not sure of you think. They moved down there when I was about 5 years old, I think. 4 or 5.
Well, what are your memories of them? Do you remember?
Not much, no. Not much. I remember visually, but not.
You were still pretty little, really.
Yeah, well, yes, and my grandmother always seemed so terribly old, and I wonder if my grandchildren think I am as old as I thought she was. I didn't feel like she was of much consequence because she was so old. But anyway.
And then, so growing up, when you say they moved into town, tell us where that was again when they moved in.
They moved it down on 7th Street, and then they built the house on Rogers Street. And that was when I started school at First Street.
In East LA?
Yes. That's when then my mother and I moved in with them. Prior to that, my mother had boarded around places where people would keep me in the daytime, and while she worked, we would have board and room with people that would babysit during the day, or take care of you.
What did she teach, your mother?
Well, at 2nd Street School when I remember her, and of course that wasn't too far from wherever they lived.
That was elementary?
Yeah. Well, later on she moved other places, but 2nd Street School was where she was when I was growing up young.
Now, so when you lived in there with your mom and your grandmother and grandfathers, was anybody else in the house too then? Was Auntie Agnes?
Oh yes, Aunt Agnes was there always. She moved down with them. Okay. She stayed up here to take care of them until she was 30. And then we all moved in there together, you see.
So what are some of your memories of Aunt Agnes?
Oh, charming memories. She was a really warm, loving woman, you know. Loved her family and her children, her nieces and nephews.
Never married though, huh?
Well, by the time she moved down here from the Lockwood, she was 30 and terribly shy. Just could hardly adjust to that sort of a life. They were so shy. They had grown up here with just, so out of civilization. But I don't think she was ever very adjusted very well to social life. As she grew older, they had great fun with their card parties and their church, but that was about all.
She was really, I remember you saying that she was always really
important, in your life, and after you had your children too.
Yes, oh yes, yes. She loved children, and we lived nearby, of course, and so my younger children never had the benefit because they moved away.
Right.
But
Paul and Steve had it.
Very fond memories of Aunt Agnes and I presume Stan too. I don't know.
And how did you and Gramps meet?
We met at a dance. Those days we danced. When we were danced at small, out of the way places. The big ballroom wouldn't accept us because we were too young. And my best friends were the twins who had no mother. She had passed away. And their father would take us, and we'd go by 3 or 4 or 5 girls. And we never dated. We just went to these dances with groups. A group of girls, a group of boys.
Mm-hmm.
But we all knew where we were going on a certain night.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big time in my life.
So how old were you when you met Graham?
You know that I don't know exactly.
Well, how old were you when you got married then?
21, almost 22. I guess we've been going together about 3 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember when.
And then after you got married, where did you live then?
There in East LA.
You were real close to
10
Long Flat or
years.
something. Okay. And at what point did
I think Paula and Stan were 10 and 12 when we moved to Inglewood.
and then you were in Inglewood for
20 years, I guess.
years before you
Maybe more.
So you really only had 3 houses in your married life, huh?
We're not the moving town. One time when we were sitting in Inglewood at a dinner table, I said, we were in Inglewood at the time, and I said I don't know who was the table, I said, before we moved out here. And they said, where'd you come from? And I said, across town. That had been the big move.
That was the big move.